Please give virtual applause for Aurelija Rutkauskaite, who is about to share a presentation on what AI startups have to know about privacy and data processing. Aurelija is a Trinity Eurex partner, patent attorney, and the head of data protection practice group, also having vast experience in IP media law with a particular focus on IP litigation. Give it up for Aurelija Rutkauskaite, Trinity Eurex partner, patent attorney, with the presentation What AI Startups Have to Know About Privacy and Data Processing.
Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to have an opportunity to speak to you here. And of course, I would love to speak live and see your faces, but it is what it is. At least this way I can share my knowledge and experience. If I may add a few personal details about me, a few items of personal data. I'm also a patent attorney and a certified data protection officer. And even more, I'm a proud mama of 5 years old and a brand new dog owner for a few days already. So I would introduce myself a bit deeper to get into the context. So I grew up as an IP lawyer, and I started my career as an IP lawyer, and I'm still the one. Part of my everyday task is to consult and to advise IT companies, tech companies on strategies of their IP protection, also on commercialization of their products, also at the same time ensuring that their IP rights are in place. But about 10 years ago, I've added another competence to my portfolio and knowledge, and it was data protection. And ever since, this industry or this need of this legal advice just grew. And I guess this led to the fact that I'm standing here on the stage today and sharing bits and pieces of my everyday work with you. So let's talk what IE startups have to know about privacy and data processing. And to be on the same page, I would cover a few issues today. And firstly, we all have to know what lays behind those 4 letters GDPR. And also I would talk about the principles that GDPR introduces and how they relate to IE and what challenges they cause to IE solutions. And also I would suggest a few examples how you can ensure that you are compliant with GDPR. So let's start. What is this GDPR, those 4 mystical letters that frightens businesses since 2018? So in May of 2018, the General Data Protection Regulation came into force as a new single data protection legislation for the whole European Union. It remit affects those within European Union and even outside, because GDPR is applicable to all the companies that or all organizations that want to target the data subjects that reside in European Union. And also it sets a highest possible standard of data protection. So if you are compliant with GDPR, then you probably are compliant with privacy laws of other countries. I have to note that GDPR does not specifically regulate IE as such. It does not talk about IE solutions or IE data processing in IE development. However, it regulates processing of personal data. And it happens so that IE solutions often use personal data. Thus, if you are developing a IE solution or you are using IE solution in your businesses, you have to know what GDPR says, because the implications of getting this wrong can lead to substantial circumstances. A fine up to 4% from your annual turnover can be implied to you. Also, a fine of up to 20 million euros can be implied. So it's quite important. In brief, GDPR is a legal act that governs the data controller's duties, its organization's duties, and also the data subject rights. So it has to be harmonized, what you need and what the rights are vested to the data subjects. And therefore, GDPR applies when artificial intelligence solutions are either under development by using personal data, or it's further used to analyze or reach decisions about individuals based on their personal data. Okay, so we are quite short in time, so I have to talk about fundamentals. And of course, fundamentals are the principles. And the Article 5 of GDPR lists 7 main principles that require that data processing is processed in lawful, fair, and transparent manner. This means, or in brief, it is called the principle of legality, fairness, and transparency. Also, we have the principle of purpose limitation, which means that personal data should be collected for specific, expressly stated and justified purposes, and not treated as in any new ways, unpredictable ways. Also, we have the principle of data minimization, which means that you are able or allowed to process only this data that is essentially needed or imported for the purpose that you are facing or you are raising. Also, we have this accuracy principle. That means that you have to make sure that personal data that you are processing is correct, and if necessary, to update it. Then we have the principle related to retention periods, which means that you cannot hold your data forever. You have to have an idea or the concept how long would you use the data and how long would you process the data. And these terms shouldn't be unlimited. Also, we have the principle of integrity and confidentiality. It's quite clear here, so I would not talk about this in details. And also, we have this accountability principle, which means that you have to be able to show what you are having, what data you are processing, and to prove compliance with all the listed principles. When we are talking about AI solutions, we meet a few challenges here. These challenges will be assessed in the light of the data protection principles, and mainly I would talk about fairness, purpose limitation, data minimization, and transparency. When we talk about fairness, we have to think that all AI solutions have to be fair, and an AI solution is as fair as the person who develops it. So fairness principle requires that all processing of personal data to be conducted in the way in seeing the data subjects in the first place and respecting their rights. Also, this principle requires the data controller or developer or user of a solution have to take measures to prevent the arbitrary or discriminatory treatment of an individual person. And also, AI model must be trained using relevant data, correct data, and it must learn which data to emphasize so not to be biased. Also, we have this principle of purpose limitation, and here we face quite a few challenges because when developing a solution, you need all kinds of data that are possible in the universe because, well, this way the solutions are developed. But here we have this principle of purpose limitation, and usually you need the data that was collected for the different purpose than AI solution development. So what to do? Firstly, you have to assess maybe AI solution development is so related to the first or primary purpose that you can reuse those data without additional consent. And if not, you have to get an additional consent. Also, there are some examples or exemptions from this, and sometimes you may not need an additional consent if you would prove that your AI solution is or you are working on a solution for scientific purposes, but well, at least in Lithuania, it's quite difficult to prove this unless you are working in a university or you are developing a solution with university or let's say the hospital if it's a healthcare solution. But then you would face the problem that this university or hospital would claim their share in the product later on. So it's quite difficult. Another exception is, of course, anonymized data. You can use anonymized data. It's not personal data anymore, and then GDPR does not apply. Then we have the principle of data minimization, and again, quite a few challenges. First of all, when developing a solution, you would not necessarily know from the very beginning for what purpose this AI solution would be used. So it's difficult to fulfill this data minimization principle because, well, you need, again, all the data that you can get, and you cannot clearly define the purpose for which it would be collected. Also, data minimization principle requires you to restrict your use of data, so to ensure that intervention into data subject privacy is minimal. And here comes in those handy techniques or these handy techniques as pseudonymization, encryption, and again, anonymization, the best possible technique here. Transparency principle means that you have to be transparent and disclose everything that you are doing with personal data to data subjects. And again, quite few challenges, because those black boxes, those AI solutions, are usually difficult to understand and even more difficult to explain. So, but the principle of transparency is applicable in full force for AI solutions. So it's quite difficult to find this wise solution how to explain what are you doing with personal data. At least you have to give this general information as the information about the controller. Also, you have to give personal contact details. Also, you have to indicate the purpose and legal basis for processing. Again, categories of personal data processed, and then the rights of data subjects. But when, and if it oftenly is the case, individual automated decision making is attached to the AI solution. You have even an extended duty to inform, and here you need an explicit consent of data subjects to this profiling or automated decision making. And even more, you have to make sure that you would be able to explain the basics of how, or the basic ideas of how your solution works, because the data subject have the right to request this information, and you have to be able to provide human intervention into the decision making, so that to ensure that again some human touch is available to the data subject. So quite a few challenges here also. And last but not least, accountability principle, which means that you have to have all those policies, all those rules in place. And I would say that it's not yet another bureaucratical burden on you. It's a cool weapon, a cool tool to enable you to, firstly, you yourself as an organization using or developing a solution, what you have in your company, what kind of data you are dealing with, and then to be able to explain it to the data subjects and also the authority if you ask so. How to ensure that you are compliant with those principles? Two, in my view, most powerful resources from GDPR. It's privacy by design and default. At the very beginning, only when you have only the idea, only the concept, you have to think about the privacy, and you have to make sure that your solution would be led by privacy by design and default, because otherwise you would not be able to commercialize it after you would develop it. And the second available tool is data protection impact assessment. Usually these are done when you already have the solution, and it's kind of legal and technical exercise that emphasize if your solution is safe enough for using personal data and for treating personal data. So to wrap up, that's about it, what I wanted to talk to you about. I do understand that I gave more, I raised more questions than gave the answers, so please feel free to contact me and I would discuss it in more details afterwards, after the conference. I'm always happy, as I said, to help young businesses to grow and to consult young businesses and to have an opportunity to make my share to, or give my share to humankind and society. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aurelija, for sharing very important things. To close it up, I have one question. We, as human beings, as private people, do we have any tools on our hands? How can we protect our privacy from AI exploiting it?
Well, we have the rights that are ensured by Gdpr. So we have this very powerful tool to ask the developer, what are you doing with my data? Mm-hmm. What kind of data do you have? Mm-hmm. So we can ask them and they are obliged to explain. And if it's not explained to me, I can address to the authority and then the investigation would start. And so I guess that, yes, we do have the powerful tools, just we are not quite using it very often.
But we as Lithuanians, or everyone is like
everyone.
This? Oh, it's fine. It's just like my picture wandering somewhere.
No,
used
we
for
have
the deepfake videos.
Some really active people in the world that are fighting the big tech companies, and I guess that AI solutions are just one of their targets, and they would come to them.
Okay, deepfake is a new, emerging, very, very bad thing to happen to this world. What do you think? Will we be able to also defend ourselves from these kind of attacks?
Well, it's not kind of a personal data thing. It's maybe about privacy or maybe about even criminal law, because you are failing the identity of somebody. So yes, you have to address to criminal authorities, and then I guess well, the problem is that our authorities or criminal authorities or our police are not that instructed in how to deal with.
They don't have the frameworks or algorithms on the hands to actually fight it.
Yes, yes. But luckily we have many tech or IT people in the society, so they would come and help policemen, I guess.
Okay, and last question. You as a very much experienced lawyer and you do understand everything. What do you think the big tech and their responsibility on the issues that AI can bring? Do you believe that in the future we will be able to actually make them fix issues that they basically created, or it will constantly be a game of politics, policy making, some pressure from the users? And it's gonna be a game for 100 more years.
Well, this burden is on us, on users. So as much active we would be, so we would be able to fight. If we are not active, if we are not educated, if we are not willing to defend our rights, then we have nothing to do. And well, we have to be active. We have to claim to get our rights back, to claim to explain what is done with our rights and what is done with our privacy. And I see that the society gets more and more educated at these days, so I guess that everything will be okay in the future.
Fine. On this positive note, thank you so much for your presentation, and thank you again for your answers. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Aurelija Rutkauskaite, Trinity Eurex partner, patent attorney, and head of data protection practice group. Thank you for that.